beautiful.
Technically, we're live now, Dano.
Do 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 do. Welcome to the Invert the Why Podcast, episode number 5. I cannot believe we're up to number 5 already because only 2 people listen to us. This is the only podcast on the internet
that makes no money.
That makes no money apart from that. But not only that, is sponsored by their mother and is powered by the love of fairy bread. Fairy bread will unite people. It'll stop wars.
It'll unite humankind.
It will. Fairy bread is the shit.
It is the shit.
Joined alongside me yet again is my brother in arms, Jason Relaxation. I am Retro Dan. This is episode 5.
Episode 5 of the podcast. Who would have thunk we could actually stick to doing something for this long?
I know, this is the most ambitious thing I've ever done in my life. I've underachieved in my whole life, and now I'm actually trying to do something. I don't understand it.
And I know. It's phenomenally successful. We had about 3 views.
Yes, and listen, I just want to say thank you for the 2 people that did watch us last week. And also, I will be serious for a second. All the people that accepted our invites on Facebook. We put it on the Facebook page, yeah?
Yeah, we did.
And so this is the first time I've logged into Facebook in about 3 years. It's unfucking believable. That's your first F-bomb. And that was very, very nice of people to do that. All right?
I greatly appreciate it.
I had a couple of phone calls in the week saying, this Pottery Pete, he is a superstar. When's he back? When's he back? Let me tell you about Pottery Pete. He's not joining us today. You know why? He's getting too fucking demanding. He wants a bowl of Skittles every time he comes into the joint, and probably he wants to do a bowl of Coke, and I'm not having it.
I can't do it.
I'm not having it.
It's just not sustainable for us to be spending that much for a singular guest.
I'm not having it.
Not having it. It's unacceptable.
No, but he will be back to talk to us all about the wonderful things that are going on in pottery, how you put something through a hole and make it come out of a hole. That's what he talks about.
How you glaze.
How do you glaze? Yes. Now, Jason Relaxation.
Yeah.
Episode number 5.
Yep.
How's your week been?
Haven't done much, mate. I've been essentially working. That's the sum total of my existence.
I've had 2 highlights this week.
I'd be fascinated to hear your highlights. Do we need a jingle for highlights?
I tell you what, we fucking should. We got a nice jingle for the Daniel's Ram, which is coming up very shortly, and no expense spared by the audio monkeys.
Absolutely,
because we got monkeys in now. They come in and they give us the audio to help us make this show look semi fucking professional, but we're failing miserably. But we should have a jingle for highlight of the week. Now I've got 2.
Bring it on. The
first one is my house was turned into an aquamarine park this week. I'm not being fucking funny. This week, I noticed while I was doing a shit on the toilet that...
Hopefully that's where you're doing your shit.
Well, sometimes I've been known to do it in other places, but that's another story.
That's a different story for another time.
Oh, yes. That could be a ram story.
That could be a ram.
But what happened was I went, that looks a bit weird. There's a bit of water there. Shouldn't be there. And then I felt the carpet. Oh, that's a bit weird. And then I thought, no, I better get onto this. So I got a plumber out, and he filled out the shower up with the water and the dye to make sure this, to see if there's any leakage. And oh shit, there's fucking leakage. Water went everywhere, and the top floor of the joint was like an aquamarine park. I could have charged money for kids to come in and slide off the fucking stairs. But here's the best bit, Jason Relaxation. I'm not making this up. This is fucking true. The cat. He likes to supervise everything that ever happens in the joint because it's his. He owns it. So he's decided when they left that he's going to drink the pink water because they made the water pink so they could see where it was coming out.
I'm assuming that was food dye.
I don't fucking know. But when he did it, when he drank it all up, I went, you know what? I'll worry about that little problem later.
He's still healthier than us.
He'll outlive me. He'll certainly outlive that vet. I'm just putting it out there. He's unbelievable. The second thing that I realised this week is that there's a word that I cannot say in English. And I'm gonna try and pronounce it now, but I'm gonna sound like a bit of a retard. I cannot say the word tentatively. I can't say it. So shout out to the retro skater out there who rang me yesterday. He knows who he is. He's the second listener of this shitty podcast. And he rang me and he says, do you want to go out for lunch next week? I said, tentatively. And he says, what? I go, tentatively. And he goes, what? And it kind of like was that. You ever seen the movie A Fish Called Wanda?
I have seen the
You know the guy that goes,
yeah.
He's got the stutter?
He's got the stutter,
And
yeah.
what was his name? Kevin Kline goes, what's the matter? Ken? That was me, but I was Ken.
Tentatively.
I cannot say tentatively.
Jeez, man, you wouldn't be doing very well in contemporary work speak.
Dude, I cannot do it. But as I've said many times, when you got half a brain in a jar somewhere,
it has a tendency to fuck with you.
I cannot say that word I cannot say it tentatively. Can't do it.
Yeah, you did. You just did it then.
Yeah, but I had to really work on it, man. It's like doing push-ups. Can't do it.
Can't do it.
No.
Can't be done.
So that's the highlights of the week. This episode 5 is going to be one that we're going to focus on one particular topic. We did end last week, episode number 3. We did have 4, but 3 we kind of ended with our recollections and our thoughts on the mighty, mighty Sega Dreamcast. And I did say at the time, look...
So we could have taken the Dreamcast conversation a number of ways, and really 3... points come to mind. Firstly is getting sweaty. Second is sailors. And third is Sonic.
Oh, fuck, let's leave it there for a second. I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole just yet. But that's the main topic of the show. But I want to start the show, as we always with the deep, dark recesses of what's left of my decaying brain, with another random access memory.
Play that jingle.
Of Daniel's mind. Now, I fucking love the jingle, by the way. And I want the monkeys to play the jingle. Now, do I have to pause for 15 seconds? Are you going to edit this shit?
I'll edit the fuck out of it. Don't worry.
Okay. So, monkeys, roll the jingle. Bang. All right, we're back. Daniel's RAM. I'm going to take us back to 1984, Jason Relaxation. I'm not going to go back to 1979 like last week, like a Smashing Pumpkins fucking song. I'm going to 1984. Now, 1984, I was in the 4th grade at school. All right, and this story involves probably one of the most pitiful displays of a show and tell I've ever fucking seen. And it also involves the time. It's a bit of a dad story as well.
Beautiful.
It also involves when Dad used an entire classroom of 4th graders as a human experiment.
What?
Oh, fuck, I'm getting into it.
I clearly don't
You don't know this shit, but I'm telling you. But when I start getting into it, you'll go, oh, fuck yeah, he would have done that.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so here we go. So 1984, 4th grade, at the primary school I was hanging out in, it was very common, and I'm sure it's very common as it is now, that there's this thing called show and tell where kids come in and they go, oh, my daddy's a firefighter. That's tell.
It's a staple.
Right? Right. Or that's my phone. Oh, by the way, I want to fuck, but hold the RAM for a second. That's another Instagram message. And I've just got on the Instagram and I was saying to Jason Relaxation this morning, I'm getting all these hot chicks they want to be my friend.
And I think you should go for it.
Well,
you can never have too many friends.
Yeah, they're very not. Let me have a look. How many have I got now? Let me see. What have we got on here? Ooh, she wants to be my friend. Well, you know what? Maybe I want to be her friend.
Do we need to have a conversation about internet safety, Daniel?
Maybe, but but when she looks like that, I want to be her friend, and I don't care about safety.
I'm pretty sure that's not how she looks.
From the behind, it's hard to tell because she's got her bum facing the camera. I don't know how you do that.
No, I don't know.
Maybe she's got a friend to help her with the camera.
Yeah.
I don't know about this shit. Anyway, back to 1984, before Instagram and girls were sending photos of their ass to people to be their friend. I've lost track of thought because that picture's disturbed me. But anyway, show and tell. Right? Very, very common.
That's a staple of education.
Okay, so at the time, I'm going to leave the teacher's name out of it because we're super internet stars, so it's very possible he's listening to this show, but I fucking doubt it.
I doubt it.
Right? But the teacher says, we're going to do a show and tell, and I'm going to put everyone's names on the blackboard as to when it's their turn to be up for show and tell.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Now, it so happens that I was third cab off the rank, all right? And he said to all of us kids, the teacher did, if you guys, I'm going to judge who's got the best show and tell.
That's a bit harsh.
Well, fucking
Everyone develops at their own time.
Mate, let me tell you about the 1980s, right? And I'm fucking getting into it now because I hear now when you go to school, you get an award for turning up. Fuck off.
You get an award for pretty much anything.
No, in my day, right, you worked your fucking ass off. I can remember 1982, right? You had to work your ass off to get a scratch and sniff sticker, right? And you were fucking proud when you got one.
Fairly certain our teacher at the time had a...
She had a drug problem.
She had a bit of a scratch and sniff drug
She would
addiction.
sit there with a plate of scratch and sniff stickers and sniff them up. I'm telling you, she was off her head.
Cocaine for teachers.
She was off her head, right? And you know who I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about.
Right, because I think you got it too.
Yep.
Right? She loved the scratch and sniff, but I did too. I like the grape ones. But you used to work your ass off to get a scratch and sniff. Not like these days, they probably just fucking hand them out. And things got a bit on the cheap because after the year 2, from the scratch and sniff, you got like gold stars.
Ah, yes.
Or silver stars.
Mate, I don't even think my kids get stars.
Yeah, but we got because they eat them now. And it's probably unsafe
man,
or some bullshit. Or they're toxic or some bullshit.
I ain't seen no star. As a matter of fact, I don't think they've got subject books like we used to have.
What do they have now?
Fucks me.
Smart books or something.
No, fuck no.
You know what the funny thing is? I remember asking... my nephew, your son, I'll keep his name out of it, and I said, does the teacher put writing on the blackboard?
Yeah.
And he looked at me like I'm a
blackboard?
fucking retard, and he says, they don't have a blackboard. And I go, well, what do they use? And he turned around and he goes, she uses a smart board. And I've gone, where hell? What's a smart board? He goes, well, she writes what she wants to write on the smart board, and then she presses print, and the paper comes out.
Fuck me.
Fucking fuck.
Mate.
Well, 1982, you didn't have that yet.
No shit, no, you had a blackboard and shit.
And actually, I'll go back a bit further here. The Colgate ads, Mrs. Marsh, she used to put the chalk in the blue water.
Yep.
And she'd break the chalk to show the depth.
Kids wouldn't get that shit now, would they?
Well, I told him about Mrs. Marsh, and he didn't fucking know what I was talking about. He looked at me like I was a bigger retard than I was before for making the blackboard fucking comment. So in 1984, we had the show and tell, and I was the third kid off the rank, right? And so the first kid that gets up there, I'm going to say her name, but she's not listening. Her name was Haley, right? And she gets up there, and it was the most pitiful display of a fucking show and tell I've ever fucking seen.
Piss poor effort.
Oh, it was fucking
useless.
She gets up there, and she's holding up. It's a tell. Oh, sorry, it's a show. It's a show. Yeah. Right? And she gets up there and she's got this, it looked like a grate over a drain.
The fuck?
Oh, fucking fuck. She's got this rusted thing and she's holding it up. It looked like the grates over drains?
Yeah.
She's holding it up. And I said, and everyone goes, what's that? She goes, this is beautiful. She goes, well, on the weekend, my daddy threw my mum's washing machine away, and this is one of the parts out of it. I'm serious, man.
Fuck?
She was as proud as punch. She stood up there and she's like, and she's holding a bit of a rusted fucking washing machine.
Fucking what?
And I think even the teacher was like, oh, Jesus fucking Christ, what do I do with this kid? So the teacher's gone, thank you, Haley, and clap, 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 right, and all this sort of stuff.
Haley now works at the salvage yard.
She's probably manager of the tip, but she's doing better than I am. Yeah. I'm doing this fucking podcast, so she's got to be doing better than me. But she held that up, right? So that was the first kid,
it's
right?
Not hard to follow.
That was the first day. So I think every day for 30 days, because there was like 30 kids in the class.
Fuck me.
Oh, it was a fucking big exercise. It was a big deal. And the prize that was up for grabs, I think, was like maybe a fucking Mr. Men book that you probably burnt.
Or a scratch and sniff.
All right. Well, no, scratch and sniffs were in 1982. That was year 2. And that teacher that I'm talking about,
I know who you're talking
she
about.
was a fucking bandit for the scratch and sniff. She was addicted to them. I'm not being funny. I think she put them up her arm, like the
nicotine patches.
Yeah. And she'd do a line of scratch and sniff.
The banana.
Oh, that was not a bad one.
The banana scent. Yeah, the ester.
It wasn't bad, man.
We used to make that in high school, that banana ester flavour.
Oh, fuck, you're a nerd. Well, anyway, this chick, she pulls up a washing machine part. I'm not making this up. And so I'm thinking I've got this in the bag. Now, I can't tell you what the prize was, but it was worth my motivation, right? It wasn't an
Wouldn't have taken a lot.
It wasn't an Atari 2600 game, I can tell you that much, but it was something, right? And so I'm thinking I've got this in the bag because I had an ace up my sleeve. I'll get to it.
I have a funny feeling I know what this is.
I've got an ace up my sleeve, right? The next kid, the next day comes in and he goes, I've got a show.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, oh, okay, this will be interesting because the last one was fucking shit. Well, anyway, the show comes into the room and it's his dad. And his dad was a police officer.
Well, that's impressive.
And he's a fucking beast, this bloke. He was a big, about 6 foot.
He's a unit.
He had the jacket on. He had the gun. This is the 80s. No one gave a fuck about anything. You could come into a school. You didn't give a shit.
This is gun buyback.
No one gave a shit. No one gave a shit. No one gave a shit about anything, man.
Particularly where we grew up, mate. Fucking no
even worse. Well, we used to throw asbestos at each other. That's another fucking story. Right?
Used to climb into fucking lion safari parks and shit.
Oh, that's a story there too. I'll get into that RAM one week. I'll get into that one.
So occupational health and safety were not yet recognised.
That's the time I killed a dolphin.
Fucking what?
I killed a dolphin.
There goes some more subscribers.
That's a confessional. I'm not making it up. I'm not making that up. I'm not making it up. I fucking killed a dolphin. That's a confessional. I'm being serious. I'm not making it up. I'm telling you the truth.
I'm going to have to take a piss soon. I think I'm going to wet myself.
I'm telling you the truth. I killed a dolphin. That's it. That's next week's RAM.
Oh, right? Shit.
I will be on air and I'll tell you that I killed a dolphin. And I didn't mean to and I feel bad about it. It's a confessional. But let me get back to 1984, right? Because that was 1986 when I killed the dolphin. But in 1984, right, I'm fucking being serious. This shit happened to me, man. I'm being serious. 1984, this kid, the second kid, comes in and he's got his dad. And his dad's a copper. And he goes, oh, my daddy's a police officer and I think he worked at the local police station. Everyone's like, holy fucking fuck. Because he was on, I think he was either going on duty or he was coming off duty, but he had the full kit. He was no joke. This bloke was no joke, right? And as a kid, and you looked up to police officers and they had the uniform on.
Back in the day, kids, we used to actually respect the authorities. Today might be a bit different, walking in as a cop to a school.
Look, I do too, because they
still do. But
they do what they need to do.
Our generation, that was just a given that you respected.
But I'm being serious. This guy was an imposing figure at the best of times. He was a big guy, big build and all that stuff, and he was and everyone's like, holy fuck. So the kid goes through what his dad does, and then his dad basically does, well, they used to do it too. They used to have the police officers day or something like this, because I remember in the primary school,
at the fire station.
I remember when the police officers come in and they basically used to tell you what they did and stuff, but I don't that was another separate thing. So this kid, his tell was that, so everyone was floored, and I think, and I'm up next, you see. But that's the next day. So I'm thinking, fuck, I'm in trouble here. I want to win this prize. I can't remember what the prize was. Might have been a pack of Mr. Men books. I don't know, that you probably burnt. I can't fucking remember. But the thing is, I wanted to win. That I was motivated. So I didn't know what to do, but I had an ace up my sleeve. So I went home that night and I said to Dad, tomorrow I've got this show and tell thing, but I want to do a show. I don't want to do a tell. Because some kids were probably going to do, oh, my daddy works in a factory, or my daddy's this, my daddy... Fuck off. I wanted to win. Right? I didn't want a participation award. I wanted to win.
Yeah, fair call.
Right?
Yeah.
And the ace up the sleeve was, I felt that I could bribe the kids with food. Now, you see how this is becoming a dad story?
I'm willing to bet I know exactly what you're
Okay, keep it to yourself.
Yep.
Strap yourself in. This is where it gets interesting. So, Dad's gone. When is it? I said, oh, actually, I'm wrong. It wasn't the next day. It was the day after, right? And he goes, all right, I'll help you out. And so the next day, Dad's gone to work and come home, business as usual, and he's come in, and I'm not kidding when I say this. He goes, all right, I'll help you out with your show and tell tomorrow. I said, oh, okay, well, are you going to come in? I thought he was going to come in and explain what he did for a job.
Which is interesting in itself.
Which is interesting because he had an interesting job. That was no muppet. He was no joke,
No,
right?
fuck no. Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, so Dad's going to come into school with me. And when you're a kid, you kind of want your dad to come into school because it's kind of like, oh, you want to see.
In our case, we're like, fuck, Dad gives a shit.
Exactly right. You know, like, yeah, exactly right. Although apparently Mum told me. Right, this is beautiful. Apparently that at one point he did come into the school. They must have had a parent day or something, and I didn't pay any attention to him. And I feel bad about that. That's a fucking confessional. Right, that's a confessional. But I felt bad about that. But this particular day he's gone, listen, I'm going to help you out. So he's gone to the boot of his car. I think back then it was the Ford Falcon. It was the red one. And he's opened up the boot. And in the boot, are you ready for it? You fucking
I know what they are. Can I guess?
Have a guess.
Snack packs.
Fucking oath, they were snack packs. So back in the 80s, and I think you can still buy them.
You can.
They were these things called snack packs, and the snack pack was like a custard flavored dessert.
No, they were custard, but you had chocolate, you had banana,
there was caramel as well. Yeah,
well.
but I fucking blew it because this is the best bit, right? So where Dad worked, he was a R&D manager, right? And his job was basically developing flavors for foods. We can say that much, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay?
Yep.
Cool. So he was no joke. So he was doing a lot of chemistry stuff. He was doing a lot of cute quality control stuff. He was no joke. Dad had a big job, you know. And I remember as a kid, he spent months and months and months over in Singapore, away from home, because he was working in Singapore, developing different things in their factories, right? So that's what he used to do. And so anyway, he's come home and he's gone, listen, I've got you about 40 snack packs. And I'm like, oh, here we fucking go.
Here we go.
Okay, but Dad, they don't look like snack packs. He goes, don't worry about what they look like.
They haven't been labelled yet.
They haven't been labelled yet, right? And these snack packs didn't have any labels on them. Yep. They had laboratory texture writing.
They were the testing ones,
these were literally test flavors. And he says to me, now listen, tomorrow when you go in, this box here, he points to a box. He says, this box here, this is a new flavor we're developing, and it's caramel. Now, I want you to get some feedback from the kids to see if they like the flavor. No fucking joke, right? And I'm like, well, I'm sure that I win now because I've fucking got food for the kids and I can do a bit of a tell that my daddy's a scientist because he was no joke, he was a scientist. And I'm like, I'm going to win because I'm going to say my dad's a scientist and he's got some samples and all this sort of shit.
And he wants to do an experiment on your asses.
Here's where it gets even better. He's giving me some lab forms.
That you fucking fill out?
To fill out. I'm fucking no joke.
And you're in year 4.
I'm in 1984, year 4.
Fuck me.
I go in the next day and I've got 2. And you remember, they were big boxes, right?
Boxes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, again, snack packs were flavoured custard pudding. They were puddings, weren't they?
No. It was basically like it was more of a custard. More of a custard. It was like a chocolate or a caramel flavoured custard.
And so we used to get them like by the truckload because we would just because with the company he used to work for, they made them, they manufactured them, and his job was to develop different types of flavors and all that stuff for these different.
And they always had leftovers.
They always had leftovers, right?
But from my understanding was they used to pull off a whole stack of them off the line for testing, right?
That's
to make sure that they're adherent to whatever they needed to be adherent to.
But what he was doing. He'd pulled off the production line this brand new flavour that hadn't been released on market, hadn't been sold yet, and he's given me a bunch of forms, and he says, "Listen, ask these kids these questions."
He's done a focus group in your class.
He's done a fucking focus group because he's gone. Ask them, do they like the consistency of that flavour?
Dad's a thinker,
right? And he's gone. Ask them if they like this. Do they like that? Do they like this? And so the next day, I've gone into the classroom with these boxes, and the teachers got the look on the teacher's face wasn't fucking great, right? And I think Mum's helped me carry them in because there was quite a few. Because
the teacher's probably gone, oh fuck, you're filling the kids up with sugar. Thank you.
Oh, mate, it was the 80s. No one gave a fuck. No one gave a fuck about anything in the 80s.
They probably didn't even know what the effect with sugar was going to be.
They didn't give a fuck.
Fuck me.
So the next day, I go in there with Mum, and she's unloaded the boxes out of the Datsun 1000.
Yep.
Because remember, she used to have a Datsun 1000. Oh, there's a fucking story about that as well. I won't say it here, but there's a lot of stories about that Datsun 1000. It was a death trap.
That was a death
right?
trap.
But she had a Datsun 1000. Anyway, she helped me with the boxes, and we went into the classroom, and all the kids were like, "Oh, what the?" The kids were like losing their minds, and the teacher was looking at Mum, and Mum was looking at the teacher, and it's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And anyway, she went home, and I was explaining to the kids, my daddy's. He's a scientist, because that's the only way I could say it.
Yeah, it's
right.
Well,
It's kind of is.
Yeah.
I go, my daddy's a scientist, right? And he does this and he does that, and he's brought in a special present for all you kids because I'm fucking ramping it up now. I'm trying. I want to win.
You're selling it.
I'm selling it. I'm like, so he's brought in right for all you kids to try this new special flavor.
Nobody's ever tasted.
No
it
one's
before.
ever had this before in the world, and the kids are like, "Fuck!" Even I'm going to do a Ram story on bullies, right? Later on, not now.
Yep.
I'm going to do
I got
one.
a good one about
I
that.
got a fucking cracking one
I
about.
gotta
I'll tell you the fucking story about bullies, but let me tell you about this story first. This is another story.
We'll do that next time.
Another one.
Actually, I got 3 that I want to do.
I got a lot of them. I got a story about how there was a girl at my school that ran a bordello.
Really?
I'm not fucking kidding.
Fantastic.
I was in on it.
Fucking fantastic.
I'm not being funny. I'll tell you the story another time. Yeah, that's a ram.
Woo.
I'm being serious.
Need to know about this.
Yeah, I'm being serious. That's a confessional.
Yeah.
I'm telling you now, Mum. If Mum ever hears this, she'll go, "You are fucking not my son."
Killing dolphins and bordellos.
I did. I hurt a dolphin. I think I might have killed it. I don't know. I don't know. I'm being serious. I'm not making that up. At the African Lion Safari.
Yeah, the African Lion Safari.
I did something that you weren't supposed to do, and I think I fucked the dolphin. But anyway, that's another story. So there's a box of these snack packs, and so I'm handing them all out, and Dad's giving me a form, and I'm going around the classroom going, "So do you like how it feels in the, do you like
the texture?
Yeah, do you like the
On
texture?
On a scale of 1 to 5, would you recommend this to a friend?
Yeah, all that shit. I'm doing all that shit. And
see, proof there that kids back then were able to read better than kids now, because I guarantee my child in year 4 would not have been able to read that.
I'm asking the kids.
Yeah.
Right, and Dad's asked me, can you record it, what they think? Right, the kids didn't do it on there. I'm doing it.
Yeah, you're product
So
researching.
I'm doing the focus group.
Yeah.
So I'm walking around the classroom because the kids are out of fucking control right now because they're on the sugar and the teacher's lost control. The teacher has lost control, right? Because the kids have gone mental. Free food and sugar, right? And I'm just walking around going, "Oh, so do you like the caramel flavour? What do you think? Do you prefer it over that or strawberry? What's your favourite flavour?" Like, Dad had given me a list of questions to ask. I'm not bullshitting. This is fucking true. And so I had a list of shit. And when I went home, I gave it to him, and he's given it to the boffins in the R&D lab. I'm not fucking making it up. He made me do a focus group for free with my schoolmates. I am not making that shit up. That is the 100% the shit. It's fucking real, right? I'm not even being tentative. I said it. Woohoo! So
wrong word, wrong context.
But I wanted to say tentative.
There you go.
To make sure that check my brain's okay.
Yeah.
So the teachers lost control. And he wasn't at all impressed. And to this day, I can't believe that I never got, like, Mum didn't get a phone call or something, or Dad didn't get a phone call going, "Listen, what the fuck was all this about?" But I don't think he really knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
Because the kids were like, "Oh, this is awesome." Because I get up there, I'm trying to do the tell bit. I'm like, "Oh, Daddy works in," and then I'm handing out the snack packs, and the kids go fucking wild. And while they're going wild, I'm handing out all the snack packs. And then I'm going, "Oh, so on a scale of 1 to 10, do you prefer strawberry or chocolate or this new flavour caramel?" Right? And it looked dodgy as fuck because they had all the on the side of the bloody snack package. It was laboratory writing,
laboratory test,
and it was like flavour QCV 1295. Right? It was all fucking. It wasn't retail shit, right? And so everyone's like, "What are you doing?" But here's the thing. It might blow you away. I didn't win the show and tell.
What the fuck won then? Did the chick with the great win?
I think she did.
Are you serious?
Yeah, because you know why?
She felt bad for her.
No, it was pitiful. It was fucking pitiful. Mine was
because her mum was hot.
No. I don't remember what her mum looked like, but I'll tell you why she won. I think she won because she was the best cross country runner that the school had. And And if you remember back then,
Cross country was a big
cross
deal.
country was everything.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if you were a fuck up. If you were a good cross country runner,
Yeah, you get everything.
you get everything.
It's like rugby league
mate,
when you're at the high school.
I was waiting to see her at the Olympics. That's how good this chick was. Like Kathy Freeman type of runner.
like legit.
She was legit, this chick. And she went to, you know how they used to have regional?
Yeah.
And then they'd have state?
State.
She went to state,
Yep.
this chick. She was 100% legit, right? And I think she won because she was making the school look better than it actually really was, which was an absolute... The school,
shithole.
The school was a fuck up. I mean, you
I
can't...
don't know what it's like now, but it was always a fuck up.
Come on. Look, I'm doing this podcast. It says everything,
That's
doesn't
right,
it?
yeah. Look how successful we've
Right?
been.
And I mean, it allowed me to do a focus group. A focus
I
group.
taught you to read well enough to read Dad's form.
Oh, mate, I did it legit. Dad was so proud. He's like, oh, well done. Thanks for the information. And he took it to the boffins in the R&D lab. And the next thing you know, the flavour that I was testing was released on the market.
Unreal.
I'm not making this up.
Yeah, I remember the caramel flavour.
You remember the caramel flavour?
oath I do.
It was nice.
Chocolate's always been my favourite.
That's why we never svelte as kids, because we used to eat the snack packs.
Oh, mate, snack packs every day with lunch and prosciutto sandwiches.
Well, I'm going to save that one for next week. That's the ram for next week.
We got like 20 for next week.
That's that's part of the bullying.
The sandwiches.
Yeah, I want to get. That's a bullying one. And it's also a confessional.
Oh, Jesus. Confessional to Mum because you gave your sandwiches away?
No. how I killed a dolphin.
Yep.
And how I was part of a bordello. I was in on it.
As you do.
And I can tell you, there's fucking plenty of rams coming up, folks, or two of you that are listening. But I don't want to do it now because I want to make this. Well, how long will we run? We want to make this an hour podcast. We're aware.
Kind of not paying any attention to
Well, I'm aware that our podcasts are too long.
Yep. We've been told as much.
Yeah, I want to make them about an hour.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, whatever.
So there's the ram for this week. That was it. That was when I basically did the show and tell, the most pitiful show I've ever seen.
So
a fucking washing machine. She brings in a washing machine, and she expects
Not even a whole washing machine.
and she expects to win,
And she does.
and she did.
Fuck me.
I got angry. I'm fucking angry now when I think about it. It pissed me the fuck off. I thought I was going to win because I brought in these food.
Yeah,
and
Dad probably brought in the best part of $100 worth of fucking snack packs.
That's the end of the ram. I'm getting angry. I'm getting agitated thinking about it. But that's it. A focus group.
Focus group.
Jason Relaxation. We've got an unfinished topic for last week.
Yeah.
We were starting to talk about the Dreamcast. And we really need to finish that topic because you asked me at the end of last week.
Why did it fail?
Yeah, we were kind of like talking about the 90s.
Because we loved it, right? So for me, the Dreamcast was probably one of the more memorable systems that we had growing up. Maybe because it was just my age. I remember it more.
You probably came into it at the right time for you.
Yeah, so for me, like it's cute little Digimon-esque or Pokemon-esque swirl, and it's 4 ports for your controllers. And
well, that wasn't what
was
I mean,
petite.
the N64 was the first control.
I know, but the system itself was, it was nicely packaged. The games, Soul Calibur.
Well, let's get into it. Like, as a system, it came out in Japan in 98, but was released in the West in 1999. In fact, 9th of September 1999. So
We got it that day.
We did 99.99. We got it, and let's get into that, right?
Yep.
Because at the time, were you not? You were
Was that
working.
the start of I was working for
EB.
I was working for Electronics Boutique at this stage. Yeah,
And you were working with some interesting characters.
some very interesting characters.
That made me look cool. That's all I'm saying.
And fuck me.
That says a lot.
That says a lot.
I mean, you were working with a guy, and he's a very nice guy, and I'd really...
We're trying to hunt down some of these guys to get them on the show.
This guy,
I know they're around, but I just can't find them.
Let me tell you, folks, about this guy that he was working with. Jason Relaxation was working with this guy. Leading up to episode 1 of the prequels of Star Wars, the Phantom Menace, every time I went into the store, because I knew I'd go into the store and see him, and I'd get a game or something, or I'd pick up a poster or some bullshit. And this guy would bail me up, and he'd be like, I'm liking what I see with the new Star Wars movie. I really like the Force push. And he'd actually go, he'd do the push.
He'd fucking do it all day.
He'd walk around the store all day pretending he's got the Force and pushing shit over.
Mind you, at this point, this guy would be what? He'd be our age. So he'd be I'm trying to think back then. Well into his mid-20s.
He's more successful than we are, for sure. He's probably doing better than we.
It wouldn't be
We
hard.
are. Well, wouldn't be hard. But look at me, I'm fucked. But the point is that he was a very
Passionate.
he was an what's the word I'm looking for? He was an interesting guy, and he was very passionate about Star Wars. But he was into his gaming too. And here's the story with the Dreamcast. And I want to get into the Dreamcast itself. He probably sold it to me, even though you were working there and you were telling me about it. He was saying, oh, look, Sega, I think, are going to come back in a big way. Because leading up to the Dreamcast, Sega were really on the back foot. And I want to get into that as well. And the reason why I want to get into that is because to answer the question, why did it fail, you have to go all the way back to probably 93, maybe even 92.
Yeah.
Right. So there were a lot of mistakes that Sega were making right back then that really affected the Dreamcast at the end. Right. And it's a tragedy in gaming because you're right. The Dreamcast itself as a system is one of the best systems that's ever come out. But he was a passionate guy. He was like, oh, man, have you seen Sega's new machine? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not really interested. I think, what was I doing there? I was playing the PS1.
Yep.
That was what I was really into. I was really into the whole FIFA scene and playing all sorts of RPGs on the PS1. And I thought the PS1 was amazing. And he was saying, well, no, Sega's got this new thing coming out. It's going to blow your mind. And
so we went to a pre-launch event.
Yeah,
So we were privy to certain things prior to the general public knowing what was going on. Back in the day when Sega had a little office out in the fucking back end of nowhere, we went to a pre-launch event, and mate, they fed us the Kool-Aid, and for us it was, this is the next thing. This is going to blow people's fucking minds, which it kind of did. It sold itself initially to the gamer.
The Kool-Aid was kind of justified, in my opinion, with that particular machine. But I remember coming to visit you in the store, and this guy would be bailing me up saying, oh, I think this is going to be because he knew I was really into my games too. So that's how we kind of...
Yeah.
Actually, all the guys that worked in the store... Was it the regional manager that was...
Yeah, yep.
He was a cool guy.
Mate, he's still around. I don't know where I think he's like a national level senior figure now. I don't know if he's still with the company, but I need to hunt him down.
Yeah, he was a really interesting guy, and he was very knowledgeable with his games as well. And I would take what this other guy, the nerdy guy that was doing the force push around the store every day with a grain of salt. But when he was coming out the back, because he was not always in the store, he would visit from time to time. He'd be like a helicopter manager, fly in, fly out. He would bail me up and go, hey, man, I don't know if your brother's said anything to you, but, this machine is going to be really impressive. It's really impressed us, and do you want to pre-order it?
Fucking no.
And I went, nah, man, I don't know. Sega are kind of like done some stupid shit. And then I actually saw one running. You had one come into the store, into
playing
the
Virtual
EB store.
Fighter or something.
No.
What was it playing?
House of the Dead 2.
Yeah, okay. Fuck, we were allowed to play that in store?
No, it was showing it.
Ah, okay.
Right, because if you remember, House of the Dead 2, I believe, required the light gun.
Yes.
We certainly played it with the light gun, but you needed... I don't think you could do it with a controller. I think you needed the light gun. And you wouldn't want to play it with a controller. No. But they were playing House of the Dead, and the other really big draw card was, of course, Soul Calibur. Yep. They would play Soul Calibur in the... Like they had a display stand, and then they'd play Soul Calibur all day, and it looked amazing. And what blew me... This victory strengthens the soul of Lizard Man.
Yep.
But that was amazing to me. And I thought, okay, well, that's just the... Because, again, I went over it last week, the full motion video scene of the early 90s and the mid-90s. And so by the late 90s, I think everyone was really burnt out with that particular technology, and people wanted more, particularly in their gameplay. And I was thinking, well, that's just the full motion video running, because all you had was like the cut scenes of the actual fighting in Soul Calibur.
But no, that was gameplay.
And then one of the... It was either the really cool guy or it was the force pushing guy. I'm going to call him force push.
Yep.
Because he'd go around the store and he'd just go, psh, force push.
He'd fucking do it to customers all day.
He used to come up to me. This is no fucking bullshit. He came up to me and he's tapped me on the back of the shoulder. And I'm like, what have you done? He goes, I just force pushed you, dude. I'd appreciate it if you fell over. I'm not fucking making that up.
Because I can see him doing it.
He fucking did it. Because he thought I'm not being funny. He's one of those guys. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Fanboys.
Yeah.
Where the guy, they basically huge Star Wars fans, and they want to get a sneak peek of the movie episode 1 before it comes out.
That's fucking.
And they go to Skywalker Ranch.
Yep.
Anyway, they meet up a character. I think it's Seth Rogen in the movie. They meet up with him, and he plays a bit of a muppet in the movie. But he takes his he's got a tattoo on his arm, and so the nerdy guys in this movie go, "Oh, look, man, we're Star Wars fans too. That's the rebellion or tattoo or something like this." And he goes, "Well, if you like that, check this out." And Seth Rogen takes his shirt off, and it's a tattoo of Jar Jar Binks. And he goes, "See how cool this is? Jar Jar Binks, he's gonna be the shit, right?" And so this guy in your store, this EB store, he'd run around the whole day going, "Fucking episode 1, Phantom Menace is gonna be the shit, folks." And he was running around, and I'm not making this up. He would force push shit everywhere. He'd run up to a fucking stand of games, and he'd go, psh, right, like he was one of those Mortal Kombat fighters. He'd just run up and go, psh, right, and you'd think that, what's he doing? Yeah. And so he had this thing. If he knew you, right, and he knew me over time because I'd come in and see you, and I'd get games and all sorts of shit. He'd run up and go, psh, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh man, I just force pushed you, dude. You should fall back." I go, "What the fuck?" Like, he went too far with it.
Oh mate,
he went too far with it.
But he did that with pretty much everything.
Yeah, he was a bit of a but he really knew his stuff about games, and there's a couple of incidences where I believed him, and much later on, past the Dreamcast years, in about 2001, I was in the store and he said, "Man, you've got to get this game." This is why I believed him over time, because he was like this. 2001, after the Dreamcast launch, I'm getting sidetracked here. He'd say to me, "You got to buy this game today." And I'm like, "What game is it?" And he goes, "It's Grand Theft Auto 3. And up until that point, I'm like, "Dude, Grand Theft Auto sucks dick."
Well, it's fucking like overhead,
like micro machines.
It basically look like micro machines with violence.
And I'm like, dude, it kind of like modern day version is like that overview thing is like I'm pulling out of my ass Miami Hotline. Yeah. I'm just pulling that out of my ass, right? I'm not saying Miami Hotline's like Grand Theft Auto from
no.
I'm just saying that
the
overhead,
the camera perspective.
Yeah, the camera perspective, right? Yeah. So I wasn't into it, but he's like, "Dude, you've got to
check this shit out.
Check this shit out, player." And I'm like, "Oh fuck!" And while he was doing it, he'd be force pushing you in the fucking store. And he actually said to me, because this is how much trust I built up with him, he's like, "If you don't like it, I'm telling you now,
I'll fucking take it back.
I'll take it back, I'll refund it immediately, and I'll give you another game at a discount. I'll put it through as your brother's discount."
Yep.
And I'm like, fucking fuck, all right, cool. But I didn't need to take it back because Grand Theft Auto 3 was the shit. But this is the type of character he is. But back when the Dreamcast was being launched, so back in 99, he's like, you want to take a look at this because this looks really cool. And I'm like, okay. And then you had it in the store and it was running Soul Calibur and it was running House of the Dead 2. And I thought, okay, I'm going to put my money down. And we put our money down on the Dreamcast. And, you know, it's an amazing machine, but it was a very innovative machine. It had pretty much the world's first inbuilt modem, as far as I'm aware. I think North Americans got the 56 kilobyte. We only got 33.6 because Australia sucks dick and we don't.
Internet hasn't changed.
Internet hasn't changed, and we still don't have electricity. And PS Now won't come here. Go fuck off. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. But the point is, it had an inbuilt modem. It had the VMU, the visual memory unit, which was
I fucking love that thing.
Yeah, you loved it. I thought it was a novel thing, but I understand that it had some really interesting features, like when you played a game, the LCD screen. So it basically slotted into the controller, and it had like a screen in the middle of the controller, basically. And so when you played a game, the game would come up with a particular image of that game in the screen. And some games were very
forward thinking
on that, like Sonic Adventure.
Because I played a lot of Sonic.
Yeah, I want to go through actually a bit later on. I want to go through the list of games that came out with it,
and the ones that we smashed.
Exactly,
we tie defended.
Yeah, but that game was very innovative, Sonic Adventure, because it had like a little Tamagotchi game attached to it. Remember that? And so back in the late 90s, Tamagotchi, which was like a Japanese LCD
It's like a virtual
mobile.
pet. It's a virtual pet.
Yeah, virtual pet sort of game, but it was a mobile LCD screen
And that's exactly
thing, right?
Yep.
And it was like a virtual pet. And Sonic Adventure had that.
Yep.
And I don't believe any console has ever had that ever since.
Nope.
Right?
Fuck, I love that game.
And I never liked Sonic, but I love Sonic Adventure. And then other games had different features that would use it. It also had a really cool feature where if you link two virtual VMUs or virtual memory units together, you can transfer save files. So you could give your friend their save file. It was really cool back in the day. It was basically flash memory.
Yep.
All right. So think of that now.
Flash memory with an LCD screen.
So go back to the 90s. Flash memory was not common.
It wasn't cheap.
It wasn't cheap, and it had an LCD screen. Fucking fuck. That's amazing, right? It was mind-blowing.
Yep.
And so it had all of that stuff. It had a very, in terms of hardware, it was quite powerful for the time. It had a pretty powerful CPU.
It's funny. It did, but everything that the way that they put it together was all very much off-the-shelf technology.
Yeah,
right?
they used NEC was for the GPU. They used the Power VR.
It was very powerful, but in order to cut the costs down and to make it actually consumer friendly, they very much bought off the shelf, put the components together, and shipped.
Yeah, and they also used
Windows CE as the operating
system.
They
learnt their lessons from, and I'm going to get to. I got to go back down memory lane a little bit in a minute, but they used Windows CE because they wanted to make it as developer friendly as they
possible.
could.
Yeah,
right?
It had its own problems.
Yeah,
but
that had problems and big problems, which is one of the reasons why it also failed. But it was a very forward thinking device. It was small. It looked the shit.
It looked awesome.
Right. The only thing I'll comment as being a negative, and this is my personal thing, is that I still stick by the fact that I don't like the controller. Right. The controller is...
It hurt your hands after a while.
Yeah, it's big and cumbersome. And it had that only one...
It was light, though. It wasn't heavy.
Yeah, but it was kind of like big.
It was very plasticky.
Yeah, and...
It was like cheap plastic.
Yeah.
It would not pass the flick test.
What's the flick test?
You don't know, on the dashboard of your car, when you flick something, it's good quality. If it's softer, it's higher quality plastic, as opposed to... If you flick it and it makes
I've never
heard the flick test.
No, I drive a German car. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, well, you and I both drive German cars.
I don't care about these other cheap shit.
Yeah, but cheaper plastics hurt your finger.
Can I ask you a question then? Right. This is a mini RAM.
Yeah.
Mini RAM.
Wow.
Back in 1995, our friend Pedro, he bought a...
not Pottery Pete.
No, Pottery Pete. Fuck, he's eating a bowl of sour Skittles.
He actually told me he's working on a flux capacitor right now.
Oh, he's a bigger nerd than I am. He bought a brand new 1995 Hyundai Excel. Do you remember the 9990 drive away?
It was green, wasn't it?
Yeah, 9990 drive away, no more to pay. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Would that
would not pass the flick test?
That would not pass the flick test.
Because it'd be hard as fuck. You'd break your finger.
Okay, well, that car had a few adventures, which I won't get into now, but maybe in future podcasts I will. But the Hyundai Excel from 1995, 9990 drive away, no more to pay, wouldn't get the flick test.
Would not pass the flick test.
Okay, so
which is, like what it actually feels like a decent bit of plastic, right?
Mate, I tell you now.
But that was very plastic.
You're holding up for our two audio listeners,
the Nintendo
who have now
Switch.
dropped off to one.
Yep,
and that's our mum, and she wants to know why I killed a fucking dolphin. Right? You're holding up the Pro controller for the Nintendo Switch.
Yep, one of my favorite controllers.
I believe it's my favorite controller as well. I actually think it it does. It dethrones the Xbox 360 controller.
Yep.
And I think the reason is it just fits perfectly in the hand.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful controller.
Yeah. But the Dreamcast controller was not well designed, and it was in an era where analog controls were not really the norm. And so controlling on the third axis with a camera manually via an analog stick was not really the norm in the 90s. So you had the forward and back with the analog stick on the left.
I remember you getting very frustrated with specific games with the controller and how hard it was to...
Well, one of the great games...
Resident Evil comes to mind.
Well, I was just about to say Resident Evil Code Veronica.
I remember you throwing a controller at some point.
It did my head in. But that game was fucking the shit.
Oh, it was a great game.
I want to Google the games in a minute, but I'm telling you, that was a great game for the Dreamcast. But what let the Dreamcast down was the controller. You know what I mean? But that's the only chink in its armor as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Actually, there's two chinks. And I'm going to lead us to why it failed, because we got to answer the question. How long have we been recording for?
Just over an hour, just around
All right,
an hour.
let's wrap this shit up.
No, we've literally not even started the conversation.
We won't take long.
It's all right.
I'm getting close to needing a piss. That's usually that's the end of the podcast.
Do you know the common thread from these podcasts?
What? Piss.
If someone ends the
piss.
conversation with, I got to take a piss.
Well, that's what's going to happen. We're going to end this podcast in about 15 minutes.
15 minutes, we'll take a piss.
Needing to do a piss. I'm telling you now.
Yeah.
This won't take long.
Yeah.
Why did the Dreamcast fail when it was so much universally loved? I think
Gamers loved it.
Gamers loved it.
Developers didn't. Done. Podcast done.
Okay, no. You got to go back to... I'm going to wrap this up. You got to go back to like 92.
Yep.
When Sega of America and Sega of Japan were really starting to be at loggerheads with a lot of decisions that they wanted to make. And so what was starting to happen was Sega of America decided in around 91, 92 to publish their own games, independent from Japan, because they wanted more games on the Genesis. That in the North America, obviously, it was known as the Genesis. Here, the Mega Drive. And so they went out their own way and developed it and created their own games, published their own games. And because of that, the quality of the games that they were releasing was a bit suspect. And prior to that, Sega of Japan was kind of saying, well, hang on, no, we want, a bit like Nintendo, we want to release less games but high quality.
High quality, yeah.
Right? But Sega of America didn't want to do that. That's the first fuck up. But that wasn't really what showed up as a Titanic moment. What was really a bit of a problem was, I think around 92/93, Sega of Japan really, really wanted to push the 32X. And the 32X was an add-on for the Mega Drive Genesis, right? And I'll be honest with you, at the time I thought that was a good idea. I'll be honest, when I saw the 32X come out, I was like, yeah, that's not a bad deal. If you've got a Mega Drive, for an extra couple of $100, you make that machine a 32-bit machine, right?
Because it's all about the bits back then.
It was all about the bits. So the 32X, as it implies, was a 32-bit machine, but it needed the processing power, or it needed the power from the Mega Drive / Genesis. But it did upgrade it to 32 bits. It did give it more colors on screen. It did upgrade it. It did, right?
Yeah, it's like
but it was still a cartridge-based machine. However, some games would work with the Mega CD add-on. Okay, so again, Sega went the full motion video route, or they tried to get into it with CD-ROM in around 91, I think it was, 92, and they did release the Mega CD.
Yeah.
Okay, and there was a Mega CD Model 1, which was like a independent thing that sat underneath the Mega Drive Model 1, and then there was a Mega Drive Model 2 and a Mega CD Model 2 that was an all-in-one unit. And I remember back in the early 90s, like 91, 92, on no joke, I walked into that same Games Wizard store that I've told many stories about, and it was $700.
Fuck.
It was a lot of money.
It's a big investment.
It was a big investment, right? And so what Sega was saying was, well, there are some games that will also use the 32X and would give you the CD-ROM capabilities as well. So they were 32X CD-ROM games, all right, as well as 32X.
It's pretty clever when you think about it. The longevity of
I actually thought,
that system is
I'll be honest with you, I thought at the time that was a smart move, but I was wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right,
but
I was wrong because
you can see it from their business sense why that would make sense.
Yeah, but I was wrong, just like Sega was wrong. So Sega of America saw this and went, we don't want it. We want to go completely to the next machine, which was going to be the Saturn. And that was going to be the true 32X machine. Okay, 32-bit machine. And so they were at loggerheads. But Sega of Japan said, no, you're going to release this fucking thing in North America, and you're going to like it. All right. And so they did. They released it. But the problem with the 32X was it was quite expensive for what it was, and there were very, very few games for it. And the games that did come out for it were shit, and it killed it. And so everyone was saying, well, it's fantastic that you've upgraded our Genesis / Mega Drive to 32 bits, but we want the real thing, right? We want
a system.
We want the 32-bit system, right? And we know that you fuckers have got it because everyone knew. I think it was Project Black Belt back then. I could be wrong on that. And by the way, I've not Googled any of this shit. I am now pulling this out of my depraved, fucked up memory, right? This is what I've read and seen in the past.
Yeah.
I'm not Googling. So if I'm wrong with dates, so be it. But I'm telling you, this is roughly what happened. And so everyone was waiting for the Saturn. I believe Project Black Belt in 93, 92. And then when it came out in 94 in Japan and 95 late in other regions, everyone went, well, fuck Sega. Why'd you sell us this 32X thing? Why'd you sell us that for? Right? That kind of annoyed us.
Sounds like
right?
history,
And the consumer got
repeating itself.
The consumer got it. Well, yeah, there's many examples of peripherals failing, right? Many examples of it. And the old saying that any add-on for the video game industry, whether it be the...
Hasn't worked well.
Yeah, whether it be the Kinect, the Move controller...
the Kinect.
You know, the Zapper gun for the Sega Master System, whatever it is, it tends to not do well.
Power glove.
And so people got really annoyed. The customer got really annoyed with the fact that you were giving us a product that was not the real product, basically. And it was an ugly thing as well. It needed its own power. So you had a power
bricks like
so you had a multiple. I've got one at home. I've actually got one at home. I've got a 32X hooked up to a Sega Mega Drive Model 2 with a Sega Mega Drive Model 2 CD-ROM drive. And I'm not fucking kidding you. If I put the 32X in, I've got 3 power bricks.
Fucking hell.
Right? One for the CD-ROM, one for the Mega Drive, and one for the 32X.
That's a nightmare.
It is. And people went, fuck, this is a fucking disaster, right? And if you wanted to play 32X CD-ROM games, it came with a cartridge and a CD.
Yeah, that's a nightmare.
Another nightmare, right? And so Sega was really pushing this, and it wasn't cheap. Now I'm pulling this out of my ass. I believe it was about $2.99 US dollars.
Yep, that's a lot of coin.
Back in 1993.
That's a lot of
right?
money.
I could be pulling that out of my ass, but I believe they reduced it very, very heavily, very quickly. Went to $1.99, and then it went as low as like $50.
Fuck me.
Right, when it was a full fuck up, right? And so everyone got really upset with Sega over that. Then they released the Sega Saturn, which was the true 32-bit machine, and they already had a problem from day one. They had decided to put in 2 CPUs in the thing, and they were using 2 Hitachi SH code-named CPUs. CPUs, right? And apparently to get these 2 CPUs to sing and work together in harmony, you needed to be a really shit-hot developer for that.
So you made it hard for developers.
Exactly. Yep. So only Sega in-house developers apparently could get this thing to sing, to fire up. If you're a third-party developer, you couldn't get it to work.
The learning curve's too high. It's easy to go somewhere else.
So what would happen is the Saturn games tended to look a lot worse than PlayStation games.
Yep.
Right. So now the Saturn's competing with the PlayStation 1 and later on the N64.
Yep.
All right.
They'll get no chance. Yeah.
So the other fuck up was that it was more expensive than the PlayStation 1. Okay, I think it was $100 more expensive. And what Sega had done, they had said it's I can't remember the exact price, but they'd said it was $299, and then Sony at E3 came out and went, it's very famous now. The then president of Sony for computer entertainment went up there and said $199 and walked off stage. So they're immediately $100 cheaper than the Saturn.
Which makes it a no-brainer.
Exactly. Now, the other nail in the coffin for the Saturn was that they misread the industry completely, Sega did. They believed that they were going to continue on their successes of the 16-bit era by having 2D platforming games, 2D sprites on the screen, when the industry actually went the other way and went 3D. So the PlayStation games, if you ever fire up a PlayStation 1 game, they're all 3D polygons, right? And so that machine could generate way more polygons on screen at one time than the Saturn could, because it was never designed to do that. The Saturn was an absolute beast in generating games like Street Fighter that was 2D sprites on the screen as a fighting game.
As opposed to polygons.
As opposed to polygons. And whenever they tried to do polygon games, it was shit. There was only a few exceptions to that, like Panzer Dragoon was a masterpiece. But their big game in the Saturn era was Nights into Dreams, right? That was their big one, but that's more of a 2D type of game,
Yep.
right? Even though it did have some 3D elements to it. So the Saturn was a fuck up too. And so now you've got a problem.
You got this
right
cascading series.
The
of
last
fuck-ups.
nail in the coffin for the Saturn was the then president of Sega America, Bernie Stoller, did a colossal fuck up. He gets up there 1 year into the Saturn's life in North America. 1 year into it, he says the Saturn's not our future. So he admits.
And then who's going to buy it? Then,
exactly right. So he admits that the Saturn's a failure, and 1 year into its life, or thereabouts, roughly,
It's pretty
maybe
short
two.
in terms of a console at that.
Well, can you imagine Sony? They released the PS5, and 1 year into it, they go, "Oh no, it's not our future.
We're releasing something new."
We're working on the PS6 or whatever it is. All right, it's not.
You'd stop.
It's
and
not
wait.
going to happen.
Yeah.
They didn't do it with the PS3. They stuck with it. Right. They did a lot of changes with the PS3. And that's why it succeeded. When initially, 2008, they called it Battle Station.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? There was an article
yeah.
in gaming magazines called The Battle Station, where they thought that this thing was going to sink Sony because Sony wasn't doing very well in their other divisions. And then the one thing that they relied on, which was the PlayStation, it was fucking sinking Sony because they were losing nearly $300 per fucking unit to manufacture it.
That's it. They weren't making any money off it.
I want to go more into depth with the 7th gen consoles like the PS3 and the Xbox 360, but they turned it around. Now, can you imagine Sony back then saying 1 year into the PS3 or maybe 2 years into the PS3 going,
we're waiting
not our future.
That's it.
Not our future.
You'd stop buying it.
Now, people aren't stupid. They know that, they're going to work on a new console.
They have to. Everyone knows that.
Everyone knows that. But you don't come out and say,
off the bat,
we're working on something else.
Wait for that.
And so immediately everyone lost confidence in Sega, right? When Bernie Stoller said that, the fucking idiot. And they said, oh, well, okay, so what is the future then? And the future, of course, was going to be the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
And so Sega really did learn a lot from the Saturn. They did make it a lot easier to develop for. They used the Hitachi SH2 chips, which was a much more powerful chip, but also much easier to program because it was only one of them. They used a very powerful GPU, the NEC Power VR, and what have been the Power VR 2. And they also really leveraged, but it was kind of a mistake as well. They were trying to bet their money on the horse of the arcade machine. So what they basically did with the Dreamcast...
Because you've got to think of the context. Japan, arcade is a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So they're assuming we're going to be able to sell if we bring that arcade aspect into the living room.
That's exactly how they rolled with it.
Yeah.
They were saying... We make all of our money on the Naomi boards in the arcades. And you've been to Japan.
Mate, they still fucking make a fortune on it.
That's right. So, you lived in Japan for a long time. So the reality is you know what the Japan arcades are like, right?
Fantastic is what they are.
They are, right? They're the shit. And the thing is that they put their money on that horse. They basically said, let's
bring that into the living room.
I'm really simplifying this, right? Okay,
yeah.
so I'm not a technical guy, and I know I'm missing stuff. So you can crucify me, all two of you that are listening.
That's right. Write your comments.
I don't give a fuck.
I'll read all two of them.
I don't give a fuck, right? But I'm telling you what they did was they said, we want to bring that arcade experience into the living room, and we're the king of the arcades. And they kind of were. Right, Sega arcade. Like you think about all the Sega games in the arcade, right?
Yeah.
And so they basically took a stripped down version of the Naomi board. I think it was the Naomi board,
and put it
or
into
the Model 1. Might be the Model 1.
Yep.
I could be wrong. Might be Model 1. And they took that hardware and they put it into the tiny little box that was the Dreamcast. That's fucking amazing, right? And then they said we're going to make it easy for developers to work on because we're going to. Put it on Windows CE, and everyone knows Windows, and we're going to make it easy for that, and we're going to be innovative. We're going to
put the same time that PC gaming was starting to really
that's
form,
it.
Right?
That's right. And
so they've gone, well, we're going to give them the same developer platform.
That's right.
That they're building PC.
That's
games
right. Now here's the thing, and then they're like, well, we're going to be really innovative. We online's going to be the future, so we're going to include a modem in every single Dreamcast that we sell, so you can connect to the SegaNet. I think it was called SegaNet. And here in Australia, we didn't get that to fuck it. I don't think it ever.
I don't actually think it ever
We got
happened.
the CD key. Remember it came with
the CD key, but it never. I don't think the online thing ever happened.
I don't remember.
We could Google that shit.
Yeah, I don't think we did.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I know in other parts of the world, SegaNet was you could do it.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's amazing in 1999. That's the fucking shit. I'm telling you now. And so that's why Phantasy Star Online was the big thing, because here you were playing an MMO before World of Warcraft, kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's fucking amazing. This thing was amazing. And we went over what the hardware was like, all the innovation in the hardware, and it was also a very powerful box. But here's what fucked it. Sega had lost a lot of goodwill with the third parties, and they lost a lot of goodwill with the retailers. You know why? Because when they released the Saturn, the then president, I think it was Tom Kalinske, I could be mispronouncing the name, at E3 in 94, came out and said, we've got this new thing called the Saturn, and guess what? It's available right now. Right now. Not in 6 months. So you know when they released the PS4, they did a event in February in 2013, and then they built up the hype, and then it was released in November 2013, and they'll probably do the same for the PS5,
it's
right?
Bound to happen.
It's bound to happen.
Yep.
They didn't do that with the Saturn. They came out and said it's now.
It's shipping today.
It's in a store right now. And so retailers got the shits with that because they didn't have any chance to do promotions. They didn't have any shelf spacings. Their inventory was all fucked up. And many of the retailers in North America refused to stock the Saturn. And so when the Dreamcast came out, they weren't interested in stocking the Dreamcast either.
The same shit was going to happen.
Exactly.
Yep.
And because Sega had some weird, funny practices as well with their policies in regards to what third parties could do on their systems, like Nintendo did back in the 80s with the NES. A lot of the
Nintendo still don't let you stream shit.
I thought they'd relaxed that now.
Yeah,
I think they have.
I remember hearing about Angry Joe.
Yeah, well, no, they've relaxed that now. They've gone back on that.
Okay.
But the point is that they had some weird situations with third parties. But a lot of third parties wouldn't develop for the Dreamcast. So EA wouldn't develop for the Dreamcast.
They were the first ones to come out and say we're not developing for Dreamcast. Yep.
Now, people will throw stones at EA, and they fucking deserve it. But
EA deserve everything they get.
But back then, EA, I'm telling you now, was the shit. Because all these sports games...
If it's in the game.
EA Sports.
EA Sports. If it's in the game.
I'm telling you now, if their games were not on your system back in the late 90s or the early 2000s,
you're fucked.
You were fucked.
Even and now, let's be honest, if that happened now, you're fucked.
Well, exactly.
People love EA games, right?
Well, I've heard some interesting things about EA, how like their games supposedly failed, but they're still selling
they still shitload because people ridiculous
just love the game. Exactly.
There's so many games, sports games that have been released that are absolute garbage.
Exactly. So
still sell.
So the point I want to make is that they didn't have the third party support. And they had to rely on their in-house development team to do a lot of the work.
Which wasn't scaled to the...
And they did some smart things. They developed Sonic Team. So they were making their own sort of games based on the Sonic universe. And they did some smart stuff. But it wasn't enough to pull the Sega through. But they did have enough at the launch of the
sell units.
Of the Dreamcast to sell a shit ton. Like, initially, it's kind of like the Titanic. Everything looked fucking cool. It was the shit.
It was the latest and the greatest.
It was never going to sink.
Yep.
But then the iceberg came and it fucked it. And I'll tell you what fucked it. Firstly, the third party support wasn't there. And the real big, and I know people won't agree with me, but you know what? If I had $1 for everybody that told me back in the 90s when I got my Dreamcast, when we got our Dreamcast and said, oh, but I'm going to wait for the PS2, it seems to be better, I'd be a fucking millionaire. I'm telling you now. So many people were saying to me, oh, but the PS2 is going to be the shit. It's going to be way better than...
Sony already had its presence.
Why'd you get a Dreamcast? What's that? I don't even know what it is. And what really hurt Sega more than anything else is that they didn't have the budget to market the thing. They were bleeding money. They had no money. They had no money, right? And so they couldn't promote the Dreamcast. And they couldn't compete with Sony's marketing power. And the other thing that fucked it, I talked about the third parties, but the biggest thing was that it couldn't play DVDs. And we spoke about this last week.
Yeah.
DVDs in 1999/2000.
Critical.
2000 when the PS2 came out.
Yep.
It was critical because it was a cheap DVD player. DVDs were starting to become relevant in terms of renting them.
Yep, and you could game on it.
And there was a big fucking difference, right? Because the Dreamcast used proprietary format. Yeah. It was called GD-ROM, gigabyte ROM, and it would only store roughly a gigabyte, and it really limited what you could do on it. Whereas with a DVD, it's around about 4.7 gigabytes.
It's
dual layer means it's 8 something gigabytes, right? So you could do a lot more with a DVD than you could with a GD-ROM on a Dreamcast.
Yep.
And immediately,
that's it.
And immediately, developers were like,
Fuck
"What
that.
the fuck? You know, why am I?"
Why am I having to sacrifice
And later
quality?
on too, I've got to say, I'm not going to talk about it now, but later on, that's what hurt the GameCube. Because the GameCube had that weird proprietary optical disc, and it really was limited in terms of its space. And developers are like, "What the fuck you doing? We all want to go DVD, right? And you're playing on these little tiny proprietary discs." And the same thing happened with the Dreamcast. And the other nail in the coffin was that those GD-ROMs were extremely easy to pirate. So there was a huge black market out there where people were
shit.
Well, they were pirating games. Now, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
I'm not smart enough, but you could do it, right? And so there were so many pirated games out there that Sega
weren't making enough money.
They
to
were
pay for the
bleeding
hardware.
money everywhere, so they weren't even getting their money back on the software sales. And so Sega were like, "Fuck this machine, because by about 2001, they were losing. Their sales were going down because the PS2 was now out, and the PS2 was starting to show that it was definitely more powerful. It was a DVD player. Developers could do more things with a space on a DVD, right? And so all of a sudden, the Dreamcast was looking less and less relevant. And I'll put one last nail in the coffin, and I'll put it to you. The final fuck up was when Microsoft came out and said, "Guess what? We're in the race too, and we've got this thing called an Xbox." And the Xbox made the PS2 look like a fucking kiddie's toy. I'm telling you now.
Xbox is brilliant.
The original OG Xbox was the shit, right?
Mate, there are games on that
And
that still stand out.
I'll be guilty as sin because
Pedro was into it.
Our friend of the show, Pedro, he got one day one.
Yeah.
I'll never fucking.
We were late bloomers to the Xbox team.
Let me tell you the fucking story. Because Pedro gets a fucking Xbox, and I'm like, "What?" This is when the Dreamcast is well and truly dead, and I'm on the PS2. And initially I had resentment to the PS2 because I always blamed the PS2 for killing the Dreamcast, and I've just gone through the reasons why I believe the Dreamcast died, and the PS2 was only a part of that piece of the puzzle, right? But I always back then was like, "Fuck the PS2, it's the reason why my Dreamcast did." Because I always felt from the day I bought the Dreamcast. And I stuck with the Dreamcast. I always felt like I'd bet on the wrong horse in the Melbourne Cup, right? Because people were telling me, "What'd you get a Dreamcast for?" Don't like the controller. The PS2 is going to be way better, right? It plays DVDs, and I'm like, "Yeah, but the Dreamcast has got Soul Calibur, and it's got
Shenmue.
We'll get to Shenmue. It's got Shenmue, and it's got fucking Code Veronica on it. You know, it's got all these. Got Power Stone. I could go on. And the PS2 games don't look as good as far as I'm concerned. I'll stand by that. But I felt like I'd backed the wrong horse from fucking day one when I got that fucking Dreamcast. I'm telling you now. But when Pedro came out
We invested heavily in the Dreamcast.
I got a lot of games.
I remember that Christmas vividly because I was at EB, and I remember buying the steering wheel. We had the steering wheel. We had
still got that steering wheel.
The fighting.
We had the
what do you call that fucking thing?
They had like a fighting stick for
like
the
a fighting, like
game.
an arcade machine, right? Like a proper arcade fighting.
We
stick.
got a lot of peripherals.
We had all the peripherals.
We also got the fishing rod for Seaman.
We got the fish.
Not Seaman, Seaman.
That's more of a Shenmue joke.
Yeah. No. There was a fucking game called Seaman.
I know there was. So we had the guns. We had fucking everything.
Yeah, we did.
And we had every game pretty much that was worth playing.
Yeah.
So we invested heavily.
Yeah, I've still got a lot of those. In fact, I've got all those games.
Have you got? Whatever happened to the steering wheel?
I've got it.
You've got it.
Yeah, I've got that steering wheel.
Because I remember the big blue box that came in.
I've got the steering wheel. I've got all the peripherals. I've got the games.
That was a great Christmas.
And I still fire up I've actually got 2 working Dreamcasts and one not working, which was our original one.
So ours died, did it?
Yeah, it did. It's got a power issue with it, but I've since got 2 Dreamcasts, and I've even got. Remember the old? Do you remember they teamed up with Telstra?
No, I don't.
Yeah, they teamed up with Telstra for the Sega Net.
Everyone teams up with Telstra.
Yeah, but remember they had the deal where you got the Sega Net on the if you used their Big Pond. I think it was Big Pond back then. And there's a bag. I got the bag with it.
I remember having a Dreamcast satchel.
Well, I've got that satchel. That's what I'm talking about.
That was mine.
No. I've got another one. I was given one.
I had one too.
Yeah,
I probably still got
the
it
one
somewhere.
I've got was given to me by a friend of the show, our cousin.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So I've actually got that from another person. But yes, we did have a satchel.
Yeah, that was. I remember it vividly.
It's the fucking shit. I'm telling you
I need
now.
to find that fucking thing.
It's the shit.
Yeah.
But look, the Xbox sort of was the final nail in the coffin because that came out in 2001. And I think by then Sega had announced that they were either leaving or there was strong rumours that they were out of the hardware
game.
The hardware business.
Software.
But look, you don't have to be Einstein. The Sega and the Dreamcast in 2001 was basically dead.
Yeah.
Right? And so he got the Xbox original, but he went like he always does.
This is Pedro.
This is Pedro. He went balls deep because he got a fucking 68 centimetre television that we called the Plantier. Do you remember Lord of the Rings?
I do.
You know the eye thing where fucking Sauron would look at the eye?
Yeah.
And he could view the world through.
Yeah.
Well, Pedro and I thought that was his TV. It was the source of evil.
It was the source of all evil. Yep.
Anyway, he says to me one day, come over and I want to show you the Xbox. And I'm like, I don't want to know about this machine. I like my PS2. And we went over there. I went over there, sorry. And look, he showed me Halo, the original Halo. It was a game changer. I knew there was nothing the PS2 could do that could match that. And I'm telling you now, there was nothing the Dreamcast could do that could match that. I knew it was fucking dead for the Dreamcast because I was still hanging on to the belief that the Dreamcast would just sit there and maybe Sega it was all lies, it was all rumors, all that shit. But it was not the case. It
never came back.
It was done.
dead and dusty.
It was done.
Yeah.
And the Xbox original killed it. And really, Microsoft's partnership with Sega was, out of that grew the original Xbox because they learned a lot from working with Sega on console development. And, they obviously... What not to do. But also they licensed the Windows CE operating system for Sega to use. So they must have had ideas in their head that, we can probably do a better job than Sega
it's
can.
our kit. We can do it better than they can.
Yeah. So it's sad because when I think about it, it's probably one of the best consoles to have never have made it. A lot of consoles that died by the wayside.
They fucking deserved it.
Kind of deserve. You're right. They deserved it. Like I couldn't go through the Atari Jaguar deserved it. It had a god awful controller in 1993 and it used a cartridge and it was shit. Right. You could keep going on. The Atari 5200, not released here, but released in North America, had a fucking terrible joystick controller thingy. Was the size of a house, the console. I've showed you the 5200.
I've seen it, yeah.
It's a fucking, it's the size of this table. It's huge.
Tank. Yeah.
It's a tank. Deserved to die. Fuck off. You know what I mean? And so they never recovered. Atari never recovered.
Never recovered.
And I don't think Sega
they
ever
still make a good T-shirt.
Oh, yeah. But Sega never recovered, I don't think, from their mistakes all the way back in 92, 93. And it's even before the 32X. It's very internal. It's very political. The rift between Japan and America. And really, I think they went the wrong way with the 32X as a peripheral and an add-on. And people just started distrusting Sega. Like, why would you... And that's the problem. When the Dreamcast came out, people just said...
They had no trust in it.
No trust in it. This is just going to fail, And I'll be guilty of it too. I actually thought, I don't think this is going to last. But I'll tell you what...
It was worth it.
It was, because I think the Dreamcast had the best launch of games.
Mate, I'm telling you, some of my fondest memories of gaming are
and
on the
when it
Dreamcast.
came out, like you were working at EB, right? It felt to me like Sega was coming back. They felt rejuvenated. They felt fresh. That machine looked...
That's why they changed the logo.
Oh, is it?
That's why the Dreamcast doesn't have the Sega logo on it. It's got the swirl.
No, it does have a Sega logo at the front.
Yeah, but it's got the swirl. Because that's the most prominent feature of it.
Yeah, it is, but they've got Sega on the front.
Of course it does, but they did that to say this is it's about renewing.
Is it?
We're back.
Are you pulling that out of your ass?
No, I'm not pulling that out of my ass, yeah.
But it did feel like a rebirth to Sega initially. And the launch titles were amazing. Like, very briefly, There was Sonic Adventure. I was not a Sonic fan. But I loved Adventure. I loved Adventure.
I played the fuck out
I loved
of that
it.
game.
I loved it.
Yep.
And there was House of the Dead 2.
Yep. Didn't play it as much, but
I loved it because it had the light gun. That was amazing.
It was not exactly accurate, but it was
but it was still pretty cool. I mean, and it really did show that it was an arcade.
It was designed for arcade games.
Machine. It really was. And then there was Crazy Taxi. Now, I don't know if these are launch games. You might have to Google what was a launch game.
I'm not sure.
But Crazy Taxi came very early on.
That was a great
There
game.
was also Power Stone, which was a great fighting game.
Yep.
That was an amazing game. I think that was near launch. Not near launch. There was Jet Set Radio.
Fantastic game.
Jet Set Radio is kind of like... this, if you
roller skating and graffiti, it's a graffiti game.
Yeah, but there's a game
graffiti
on
simulator.
But Sunset Overdrive on the Xbox One, which I believe is the best exclusive game on the Xbox One,
It's a big call.
wouldn't be fucking hard. I'm not being funny. What you tell me one fucking exclusive game on the Xbox One that's good? I'm telling you that there isn't. Sunset Overdrive though is good, right? And that's actually a very much.
It sort of goes back to the days of Jet Set Radio. Yeah,
It's very much like Jet Set Radio, right? It really is. It's got that same movement, that same quirkiness.
It's a fun game to pick up and play.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
But Jet Set Radio was one, and then the big one was obviously Shenmue. And these aren't launch titles, but they came within
Shenmue 1
those
and
first.
2, yeah.
They came in within the first couple of years of the Dreamcast. But Shenmue is an amazing game. I'm not going to go into it because
That's an episode in itself.
a million people have done videos on Shenmue and can explain it better than I can. But long story short, my personal opinion on Shenmue, I've recently replayed it on the PS4 because they released it last year. They didn't revamp it. They just basically
As is.
up-resed it a little bit and gave it modern controllers. Sure. That's it. I agree with people that say it's boring because in the modern world it can be.
It's not meant to
that
be
bit at the
funny,
end where you're on the forklift. I'm not fucking funny. That's a job you can pick up at fucking a warehouse.
Yeah.
And I've worked in a warehouse, and I don't ever want to work in a warehouse ever again. Fuck it.
Yeah, forklift simulation.
Fuck off. Fuck the forklifts.
Forklift simulation and QuickTime events.
Yeah, but the QuickTime events don't really worry me.
Wasn't it one of the first games with QuickTime events?
It is. Yeah, I think it is. But what blows my mind about that game and what people should look at that game for or at as an inspirational game, not so much the storytelling, although that is impressive, is the fact that to me is one of the first open world games that was simulating or trying to simulate life experiences. And I'm talking about you go into the town there and depending on what time of day you're in that part of town, you see a light go on and a shop opening up, or the shop's closing now,
Getting in trouble for showing home late.
Yeah, you get it, all that shit, and you go down the street and different people will be at that street at different times. You know what I mean?
It felt like a lived in place.
There were parts of that game where you had to visit certain people at particular points of time.
If you're at the wrong time, they wouldn't be there.
Exactly. And I don't remember any game before that doing that. And that's what people should take away from that game. And it's very easy.
It really, in terms of open-ish world games, I can't think of much before that.
No, I don't think so. I mean, there were slightly open world type games,
but not with the storytelling and the interactivity.
Certainly,
the the little egg things that you used to get from.
Should I play?
Should I play? $2? Should I play? 100 yen? Should I play?
On the day of the incident,
did you see a sailor?
Did you see any sailors?
I'm looking for some
sailors. It had the best worst voice acting ever. It was fucking the shit. I loved it. When Rio walks up to different characters and goes, excuse me,
on the day of the incident,
did you see a man wearing dark suits? And look, it's very easy. It's very easy to make fun of it.
But geez, it was good.
By modern standards, it lacks a lot of what has now been taken for granted in open world games. But I'm telling you now, in 1999 or 2000 when it came out, probably came out in 2000 or 2001. 2000 or 2001. I think 2000 it came out. There was nothing like that, and you'd never seen anything like that before. And if you play it now, you have to go into it remembering that, or knowing that, I should say. If you go into it thinking it's going to be your typical open world game from 2019, prepared to be disappointed. And I saw, Jim Sterling do a review saying, "Oh, it's boring and shit." Fuck, yeah, it is. I agree with you, but you're looking at it from the wrong angle, mate.
Yeah.
It was released in the early 2000s, right, or maybe even late 99, probably 2000, I think. And there was nothing like that before, mate. Nothing. Right? And so you've got now this living, breathing world on very old hardware, right? That it was fucking mind-blowing.
For us, it was
and you're
mind-blowing.
right. You're saying the story was amazing. It was. And there's a second game, which did get released on the Dreamcast, but only in the PAL regions. Never got released on NTSC.
See, we didn't play it on the...
I
played it on the Xbox.
Yeah, I played it on the Xbox.
And we borrowed Pedro's copy, and we made it mostly to the end of that game, but because he doesn't necessarily care for his CDs very much, it stopped working at that point, and that's it. I never finished Shenmue 2.
I have now on the remake.
And that's because, Pedro fucked the CD.
He fucked the CD, but he fucked a lot of things as well. If you know what I mean. No, I didn't say that. I mean, he ruined things.
He didn't look after
He didn't look after things. He didn't look after things, including that 1995 Hyundai Excel.
That didn't get
9990 drive away, no more to pay.
Didn't get looked after.
It didn't get looked after. But that's all I got to say about the Dreamcast. I think it's just one of those systems that a lot of people look back fondly on, because I think if you have one, if you're collecting, or you've played one when you grew up, I don't think there's anybody out there that went that's a shit system. I don't think anybody did. If you stuck with it, there were games that were absolutely mind-blowing. And I know that I didn't go through all the games that came out at launch, but I don't think there's been a system that's come close in terms of launch lineup.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Because a lot of the systems come out, you might get one really decent
game. Yeah.
Whereas that had a lot.
That had heaps.
And we had every single fucking one of them.
That was an amazing system for that. And a lot of things worked against it, but it's very easy to say, it was the PS2. It wasn't the only thing that killed it. I'm telling you now, there were other things that killed it.
It was a chain of events and a chain of problems that led to its ultimate demise.
Yeah, and it's a shame because I talked about the 90s last week. That was the best. That was my favourite system of the 90s, even more than the PS1.
And mind you, we played the fuck out of the PS1.
I love the PS1, and I might talk about the PlayStation systems in the future, because I think that deserves its own episode. Because I have a huge love, I've got a huge crush for the PS3. I think the PS3 is awesome, even though it's like the ugly child of the family. But the Dreamcast was my favourite system of the 90s, and it's one of my favourite systems of all time. And I toss up whether I prefer that over the Xbox 360. That's how much I really love the Dreamcast. But what hurts me is that I felt like I was backing the wrong horse from the moment I got it, even though I was happy that I put money on it. You know what I mean?
And we got a lot of fun out of it. Yeah, it was worth the money.
Yeah, I used it right up until it basically had no games coming out for it. And I know there's a big homebrew scene for it now. A lot of people that are making homebrew games for it. And it's very popular in the shmup communities, the shoot-up communities, the overhead shoot-em-up games. A lot of games come out for that, and a lot of people have modded it. There's a lot of things going on, but at the end of the day, it was a bittersweet song for the Sega Corporation, and then they announced they were publishing games. And look, I think they do a great job now. They've got Atlas under their belt, and they do their own stuff with them and with other developers that they've got, and they're producing some great games for the modern systems. But part of me kind of wishes that a Dreamcast 2 would come out, but it's never going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
It's never going to happen.
Yeah.
So, and that's it.
That's it.
I think we should wrap this little bad boy up, because I'm busting for a piss.
I'm aching for a piss as well.
How long did we record this bullshit podcast for?
I don't know. I'll figure that shit out later. 1 hour and 28 minutes.
Oh, that's more than enough. Thank you, everybody, for listening, all two of you. Thank you for your likes and subscriptions on the Facebook page. Where can you find us? iTunes,
Spotify, Tune It In Radio, any of those podcasts.
What's Tune It In Radio?
It's like it just basically says it in the name, doesn't it? It's like an internet radio.
Mate, I've only just come to grips with Instagram. I got all these girls asking me to be their friend.
You should be their friend.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I've never seen their faces, just their bum. They put their bum in the camera. Is that normal?
It doesn't matter.
I want to be their friend.
Yeah, if they look like that.
Oh, shit, yeah. Thank you for your patronage today for this podcast. I hope we haven't bored you too much. I'm sure we have. Don't listen to this podcast while you're driving. You'll fall asleep, and that's dangerous.
That's dangerous.
Thank you, Mum, for sponsoring this podcast.
Thanks for the fairy bread, Mum.
Thank you for the fairy bread, Mum. We're going to smash that right now. And we look forward to going into the depths again. Jason Relaxation, into the dark depths of my retrodom and my random access memories.
See, I
where
reckon,
maybe I talk about the day I killed a dolphin.
You know what? I reckon the next episode is just dedicated to... I reckon we do 2 or 3 random access memories.
I don't know if I've got it in me. It's very tiring.
I know. I reckon you got...
Because the brain can only take so much. I'm telling you now, it's hard work pulling that shit out of my brain. It's hard work.
I've got 2 off the bat that I reckon we could go.
There's one that I know is a softball one. That's an easy one. That's the one you're thinking of. That's a dad story.
That's a dad story.
But I've got quite a few. We'll have to compare notes.
Let's compare notes and get back to you.
Until then, ladies and gentlemen, and all 2 of you that have listened, thank you for your patronage. We'll see you next time in the deep, dark voids of retrodom. Until next time, we're out. Thank you.
Don't go changing.
Don't go changing. Loving you is easy 'cause you're beautiful.